Welcome everyone to the second ever episode of Lotus Rewind. I'm joined once again by the man, the myth, the Stubby here, and the one and only Zimphonic. And today we have a special guest. Some of you may know him as B'tman. B'tman, welcome to Lotus Rewind.
Hello.
So you did just come off of a pretty dominant victory last week, taking a peek at the stats here. But for those of you who aren't familiar with you in the audience, why don't you give us a little rundown of who you are and how you kind of got to the spot you are now with Clown Gaming?
So I've been playing League since it's probably been season three, end of season two. I started. Um, and that was just playing ranked, and Discord didn't quite exist back then. It was
Yeah.
TeamSpeak and stuff like that. So, um, and then about 2015, I started getting into Discord leagues, and that was actually when I started. I started for playing in a league called Rising Premier League. Um, I did pretty good there. Made it to finals twice. Lost the first one in a best of five reverse sweep, and then
Oh,
the second
dang.
one we ended up winning, and it was just about a best of five reverse sweep for the enemy team, but we ended up winning the fifth game, so we got lucky there. And then I did a couple other leagues here and there, nothing too serious. And then I kind of took a break in like mid 2017 because that was when Fortnite was crazy and all that. So I started playing that as my main game, and League kind of sat in the background for a while. And then I came back in 2019 and started to build my name up more and more again. Played in a couple different leagues, Titan, Esports, and then I started playing in ZGG and BOL. I didn't do too hot in my first season of BOL, um, but then in our ZGG in the spring, we made it to finals and lost. Um, and then this past fall season, I ended up winning both ZGG and BOL. With a team called Literal Monkeys,
Awesome.
and
Okay.
now we're here.
Oh, now we're here indeed. So you definitely have quite a history, if you will, playing amateur League of Legends. Like you said, been playing since the end of season two, and you've been to those playoff runs. You know, you've been in those tense situations where reverse sweeps happen or they almost happen, and that can be a really valuable asset to have as a member of an amateur team. Just having that pre-existing experience in those kind of high pressure situations and maybe being able to calm down your team or whatever it may be, keep the mentals straight. Do you think that that is an asset that you bring to any amateur team that you play on?
I try, but in that situation, you got to keep your mental in check
Yeah.
also. Uh, on top of trying not to tilt your teammates and stuff like that. But
Oh, it's rough. We all try. We all try our best to keep the mentals in check for sure in those situations. Um, so being around so long as well, do you have any favorite or least favorite metas that you've played in that just stand out to you immediately off the top of your head?
recently, I didn't really like the farming meta when like Rumble and Morgana and those champions were broken. Um, I mean, I could play Udyr and Hecarim pretty well in those metas, but when the Rumble and the Morgana took over, that was kind of a shit meta in my opinion. But
Yeah.
um, thinking back, back when I made those runs in like 2015, I'm strictly I play mainly tanks, so I've been playing Sejuani since pre-rework, and she's probably by far my favorite champion. Her and Zach are my two favorite champions. And I've been playing them since pre-rework of those two. And back then they were both really, really strong during those. So I really like that meta.
Yeah. That Rumble Morgana jungle meta, I almost forgot that even existed. It was like some weird fever dream mid-season where all of a sudden you have these AP champions from different lanes just going into jungle and one-shotting every camp with infinite clear. But to bring it back a little bit to the actual league that we're in now, that you're playing in, who do you think, if you had to name maybe a top 8 teams right now that you're looking at, what would you say that they are?
You want me to go from bottom to top,
However
or
you would like to do it. Bottom to top works.
all right? Let's go from bottom to top.
Okay.
So for my number 8, um, I have 2 teams, because I have Goon Squad Gaming and Conduit. They
Okay.
both played this week, and I think if Conduit didn't have their new mid laner that they just started, I think his name is JJH, I don't think they would have won that series. I think Goon Squad Gaming would have won. So depends on if JJH is playing. Um, I give Conduit the 8 spot. If they aren't playing, then I give Goon Squad Gaming the 8 spot.
Okay.
Um, for number 7, I don't know too much about this team. I just know that they're doing pretty well in the other division, but I have Aegis. Um, but I don't know too much about them. I just know that they're doing really good. Um, in my number 6 slot, I have New Wave Paradox. There's a lot of big names on this team that I've seen from different leagues that are all playing with each other, and I think they won week 1, and then I think they played CB Dusk this week and ended up losing, which is understandable because I have CB Dusk higher than them in the rankings. So, um, but I think they'll bounce back and they'll be a high tier playoff team
Okay.
towards the end. And in our number 5 slot, I have Genesis. It's the team that we play this week. Um, I think I was actually going to be on this team until uh, our team got accepted after the DPOL teams dropped out, and they've made a lot of changes since we left, so it's hard to tell how good they're going to be. But they're the only other team in our division that's hasn't lost a series. Um, so it'll be an interesting game. I think. I hopefully we can beat them in 2-0 fashion, but it may be a 2-1.
Okay.
They're kind of a wild card, I think. Um, and then 4, I have CB Dusk. Uh, you got names like Anderson Cooper and Chitin. It's kind of hard to put them pretty low with those 2 names on their team. They've been around a long time. Um, and then number 3, I have Imperial. Shout out to my boy Potato Tomato. Uh, he feeds every now and then, but then there's games where he goes 18-2, and they have a meme that says he turned on his action replay
Oh
and
yeah.
just 1v3s everybody. But yeah, the Imperial guys are pretty good. They were actually in the finals against us in BOL, a majority of that team. So they're a good team. And then number 2, I'm gonna get so much hate from my teammates. I put us.
Okay.
Um, I think we're a top tier team. Um, even in our 2-0 win this last week, we still had some shaky stuff happen, but uh, we bounced back and ended up 2-0ing New Wave. And then number 1, I have TA Spirit. I think they're probably the best team in the league, and they'll be the team to beat this season, I believe.
Okay, quite a list we got there. I respect, putting yourself at second, maybe humbling you guys just a little bit, not putting yourself at first. Hard to when you make your own list, right? Um
Yep.
but I also saw that you put CB Dusk at fourth. I mean, I think that's a little bit of a hot take. CB Dusk, I think a lot of people are putting them up towards like top 3. So I mean, not too far away from the very top, but what are your thoughts behind that specifically?
Yeah, 3. I would say the highest that they could be is 3. Um, they did play the best team. They did play TA Spirit the first week, and they did get 2-0'd. Uh, so that was a little that brought them down a peg, but they also didn't have the roster that they're starting now, with Chitin in the mid lane and Barak in AD carry, and now they're I believe starting Shrouds, who has also played with me in the past, uh, as their support, and he's a pretty decent support, and he's one of those people that keeps your mental down, or
Okay.
keeps the mental up in spirits. Um, but I think that between Imperial and them, they could switch, they could flop.
Okay.
Um, but yeah.
All right. I want to pass it over to Symphonic now. Symphonic, what do you have for B'tman?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just kind of touch base on what you think are your top teams, but tell me a little bit about those top players. Like, what are these players that as B'tman, do you watch out for? Whether it's for your team or even other players that other teams should watch out, even outside of your division.
Um, I mean, obviously you have the players like Cooper and uh Caxi and all them, like Chitin and can't remember it's like Jason, he's the AD carry for TA Spirit.
Jason Crypt. Yeah, Jason
Yep.
Crypt.
Yeah.
And then Imperial has some big names. The teams that or the players that I'm looking at that aren't like huge names and aren't like well known in the community is the Genesis mid laner. Uh, he goes by Knives is his I think his plat account, and then I think he changed his name to like Dilf Daddy or something like that. And this past week or something, he's like their mid laner, and uh, I think he's going to be one of the top tier mid laners in the league. Um, just by watching the couple games that I've seen from him. Um, and then you got like JJH. I think he's also a top tier mid. It just depends if he's going to be playing for Conduit. If he's playing for Conduit, I think their team uh shoots up in the rankings. Um, and then couple other like another jungler I always look out for because he's pretty consistent in leagues too is Kappa Crusader. He's now Super Throws is his name now. He's a resident Poppy and Gragas player. Those are his two best champions. And you think of Kappa, you think of a Gragas main pretty much.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Um, and then you got Shrouds, Hidden Shrouds. He's a support that you should watch out for. Um, but yeah, I don't want to say anybody on my team because I don't want to sound biased.
Not too biased.
No, man, nah, take your shot, man. You got to be hyping up your team. I mean, it's there's a reason we asked you here. You guys are doing great, so let us know how
Yeah.
you're gonna beat every other team. Let us know how you're gonna take down TA Spirit. Like let's build that hype. But you did talk about I what I really like though, speaking of not maybe like hyping up too many of the well-known players, I like that you brought into attention kind of these other players that might be going under some people's radars. So with that in mind, what's a team that you think could be the potential dark horse of this league? This underdog team.
Um, I I'll do one for each division. Um, I think Aegis is so far showing that they're a dark horse in that division. Um, I've not heard of anybody on Aegis, so they're with them being second after 2 weeks. That's pretty good. I I don't know if they've played. There's some teams on that side of the bracket that I have never heard of and haven't seen players, but uh, they're second now, so they're going to be if they keep going the way they are, they're going to they might take one of the playoff spots from one of the bigger teams. And then for our side of the division, I have Genesis. They have had two hard fought 201s both the weeks. So and they get to play us this week, so hopefully we don't mental boom them.
Yeah, no, that I mean, totally. I mean, I like that. I like that we're pointing out some of these teams because you're absolutely right. I mean, some of these players are not as known. They're taking the preseason to really kind of step it up and kind of show everybody what they're made out of. And accolades like this are going to be what you're going to be seeing, as we get into the start of the new season next year. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Stubby because I know he's got a couple questions for you.
For sure, for sure. First of all, B'tman, nice shirt. I really like that. But
Thank you.
I feel like the hype around you comes off your recent wins in both ZGG and BOL. For me personally, like in amateur leagues, at least when I looked at the BOL teams, I'm not too really, like I don't really know too much about ZGG, so I'll talk about more about BOL here and your run there. Um, when I looked at BOL, I looked at the rosters and I saw familiar faces that like even individual players that I thought, okay, they're gonna take over this league, they're gonna win this league, and whatever team they're on, they're gonna probably dominate, probably make top four, which they did. But then the outcome was that B'tman was the king at the end of the day. So talk to me a little bit about that BOL run, and if you want to talk about the ZGG run as well, go for it.
I'll talk about the ZGG run because it wasn't too spectacular. The ZGG run, we pretty much went undefeated in series in the group play, and then we didn't lose a series in playoffs. So that was about it. We pretty much dominated in ZGG. BOL on the other hand, that was another story. We lost, I believe, the first 3 weeks in BOL. We had a lot of roster issues in BOL, and then finally we found a roster towards the end of the season. We actually had to 2-0 the last 2 weeks to even make the wild card slot, which is the 4th and 5th place teams from groups on each side. And then we ended up winning that when we weren't supposed to. Everybody was against us. They were choosing the other team that we played. I can't remember who we played. I think it was Oasis Nads. We played them and we beat them, I believe, 3-0. And then our opening week, we had to play against the first seed that was in our division, and we ended up 3-0ing them. We were never supposed to win that series, according to the analysts. They all had them 3-0, and they didn't think we had a chance. And then the second week of playoffs, we played against a Radiant Storm team. And they had I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a jungler named Minute Militia. He's a pretty well-known jungler on the BOL side, and he plays like carry champions, and he's really, really good at carry champions for our rank. And we went into that series having to use an E-sub the first 4 games. We ended up winning the first game, losing the second game, winning the third game, then losing the fourth game. So then the fifth game, we finally got our main player in because of internet issues. Thank you, Xfinity. And we ended up taking that series. And between taking them down and LXX, which is Limitless XL, who were first and second in our division, I feel we took the 2 hardest teams out of the whole entire tournament. I think Radiant, if they would have made it to the finals, they would have won. And then we played Imperial, which is a majority of the team that's playing in Lotus, was on the BOL team, and we ended up 3-1ing them, and then we won. But we won ZGG and BOL back-to-back nights.
Oh wow.
We played that one Wednesday, and then we played BOL on Wednesday, and then ZGG on Thursday, and we ended up winning both of them.
So basically, I mean, to me, it sounds like you guys were a complete dark horse who no one really thought would win, and then you guys just, you guys were just hot. You rode
Yeah.
the wave. You made it to the finals, and what was the final score? Like the series in the finals?
3-1.
3-1. Okay, so pretty dominant, right?
Yep.
And then, so like all this ZGG and BOL hype, you come in. I remember, letting your team know that you guys were in the wait list. And you go to general chat. You're like, guys,
Yeah,
I
I
literally
gave you
just
guys some crap.
yeah. You're like, guys, I literally just won 2 leagues and I'm a free agent and no one's picking me up. Yeah. So I'm,
Truth.
I'm like, who's this B'tman guy? And then someone told me, wow, he just won 2 leagues. So I'm like, okay, because you were talking about Minute Militia, right? That was the one person that I thought, if a player is going to take over a league, someone like Minute Militia or probably Chitin are the two people that I'm thinking of, would probably take over a league. So when I saw that Mr. B'tman won, I was like, okay, that must have been a crazy run. And the way you explained it, it sounded like it was a crazy run. So I mean, congrats to you. So you joined, I think New Wave, you said? No, you
No,
joined
Genesis.
Genesis. Genesis, okay. And then your team got accepted, and you gathered the troops. Everyone was down to play, I'm assuming, and then you made a roster, right?
Yeah, so we already had a core team of so our mid 80 carry and myself, we've played on teams in the past. So pretty much we just had to find a top and a support after we got named the replacement. Um but our actually our org owner Sems, he's a top laner, so he filled in for week 1 just to get us by, and then we found our actual top laner for the remainder of this the season. Last week we used him. So
Awesome, awesome. So, I mean, thanks for coming out today, B'tman. I'll swing it back to JVL just for some closing thoughts. And yeah, again, appreciate you coming out, dude. Thank you very much.
yeah, no problem.
My last question for you, B'tman, possibly the most important question you have been asked all day. What is the single best and the single worst change made in preseason so far?
I'm going to say the single best is the Scuttle change.
Okay, I
Um,
like that.
I hated fighting over Scuttle every 3 minutes and
Yeah.
15 seconds because there was a lot of times where that just turned the game because you go for the Scuttle and half their team is there. But that's probably the best change. The worst change, trying to think.
You got a
I
lot to
haven't
choose
really
from.
Lethal Tempo. Say Lethal Tempo. I know you want to.
Chemtech Dragon Soul.
I
Yeah.
haven't really had a problem with the Chemtech Dragon Soul. I don't like the Hextech map.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't like the gates. I think they're too touchy. You touch one and you try to go through it, and then you like barely click off of it, and it like puts it on cooldown. And I don't like that. If I had to choose one thing about the Chemtech map I don't like is it gets rid of all your bushes
Mhm.
and your jungle, which sucks. But those are about the only changes I haven't liked so far. But um, I haven't run into too many lethal tempo abusers, but I haven't played ranked since the preseason started,
Yeah.
so I haven't had to run into that too often.
All right, B'tman, that about wraps it up for us today. Is there any closing words or anything banter you want to throw out there? Predictions? Now's your time.
Um, I want to shout out all the people that have gotten benched so far after playing against us.
Oh no.
Aqua Rat, I'm glad you found a new team. Um, and I'm sorry to Fire Chicken for getting how he got benched, but uh, hopefully nobody on Genesis gets benched after we play them.
Fingers crossed.
But that's about it. Clown Gaming for the win.
All right. Well, thank you very much, B'tman, for coming out today. And we will see you guys with the interview next time. I hope everyone enjoyed that interview with B'tman. I think he had a lot of great points. And now we are going to transition into tentative 11.24 patch notes. And there's a lot to go over here. So I guess we can just start from the top. We got a few champion buffs here. Ivern, Samira, and Caitlyn. Zymphonic, do you want to talk about these Ivern buffs and what they could possibly mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ivern, the Krug freedom experience. So when Ivern actually takes the camp without hurting those poor little rock creatures, is going up from 37 EXP to a total of 95 EXP. And the gold freedom is also going up as well. So instead of just getting 39, he's going to be getting 85. So I know in the past, Ivern mains have been just opting to skip Krugs altogether, just based on the fact I think the biggest proponent, at least, was the gold. Just because you don't necessarily get all the gold that you would get by killing each Krug individually. But now with that buff to Krugs and gold, that's a solid pickup in terms of actually finding that route to actually take those Krugs, especially early. I mean, it's gonna be able to maybe change a couple of the pathing decisions that Ivern makes. And just get a little bit more gold into his pocket early. Ivern big about clearing all the camps quickly and being able to jump on the map and start assisting the lanes and kind of just build up of those that assist gold. I think it's going to be pretty big. I don't necessarily know if that's going to mean that Ivern's going to come back into the meta. I mean, having Enchanter-esque junglers is always really strong in terms of, the hyper carry meta coming back and just kind of feeding into that carry mentality. It might see a shift of maybe we bring something like an Ivern back and you might see seeing more engaged supports. You might see a Jinx instead of paired up with a Soraka or a Lulu. You might pair it up with something like a Braum, Leona, Alistair, and you might leave the enchanting duties to the jungler. So it'll definitely allow a little bit more of that meta creating feel to kind of what you draft into the jungle. But I think it's some good changes, especially, I mean, preseason's the time to do it, and we're going to see if it impacts Ivern heavily.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like Ivern is one of those champions where they get like a small buff or a small change, and then all of a sudden they're just back to like A tier in the jungle, and
Yep.
all the Ivern one tricks are having a ball in solo queue, just abusing him for elo. But those are some pretty big Ivern buffs, so I would not be surprised to see him make his way back. But next we got Samira here. Her R mana cost is going from 100 to 50 to 0, now just going to 0 cost at all ranks. And I mean, personally, I don't think this is really going to change Samira at all. I mean, it's a feel good buff, like you're not going to have mana to cast your ult, but I don't think that's really what's gatekeeping Samira from being like a commonly picked champ in the bot lane. I don't know if either of you guys have any opinions on Samira changes here.
I don't even own that champion, so I'm gonna be honest with you. I got no idea. I just know when I see a Samira, I do lock in Poppy because that champion just destroys
True.
Samira. So that's all I got.
I think that actually brings up a really good point in terms of Samira's like inability to be played, right? It's the ability to just stop her.
Yeah.
And I think with a lot of, again, the changes in the bot lane, I mean, one, being outranged by a lot of these hyper carries, or even like a Caitlyn Ashe, just being able to kind of abuse her early. And it gives a comp just a very straightforward identity, which is your Samira needs to go in, which just means your support, your top laner, whoever has a CC in the team, if not everybody on the team, just has to hold some sort of CC for her as soon as she jumps in. I think when Samira was really strong is when she was a little bit more overtuned. After those changes, when she, could no longer dash to enemy champion or to ally champions.
Yeah.
And also just like the change in her attack numbers, she's never been in the right place. And I just think she doesn't outshine any of the current AD carries there in the meta. So cool change, makes her more, I guess, smash on keyboard esque. But
yeah.
aside from that, it doesn't really put her anywhere higher than any of the other ADs.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And the only champion direct nerf that we have on this patch preview is Camille, the one and only in the top lane, S tier champion for many patches. Always seems to be up there with the top of them. No pun intended. And it looks like maybe Riot are doing the same path they usually do, where they're nerfing other aspects of her kit, but not really the parts of her kit that make her how strong
true
she
damage.
is. Yeah, so basically
Literally true damage.
they're not nerfing her Q whatsoever. They're nerfing the E cooldown so that maxed rank it's going to be 2 seconds longer. That really, I mean, it's not going to change Camille, and you're not casting E off cooldown, so it's not it's not an ability where 2 seconds at max rank is going to make a big difference. And then her W sweet spot damage is just getting ever so slightly tuned down for the damage. So again, I don't know how you guys feel, but these changes just feel so pointless to me.
I think that Camille is like a champion that's if you go into higher elo, you'll see every top laner knows how to play Camille because it's skill expressive. And like even if you compare the last 2 weeks in Gardenia and Primrose, I think you see maybe 1 Camille in Gardenia and maybe 5 in Primrose. I mean, the higher you go, the more you see Camille. As a top laner myself, the E cooldown's nothing. W, she gets nerfed in lane a bit. I mean, ever so slightly. But then again, JVL, like you said, what makes Camille is hookshot being absolutely broken. You can run Ignite on Camille,
Yeah.
which is disgusting, and then her R being, you can't get out of it. Literally, you cannot get out of it. And then the true damage on Q2, which is what really needed a nerf. But I mean, Riot at least did something. Like, Jesus Christ, Riot. Like, it's been a while. Like, come on. They took so long. I mean, it took them 1 patch to nerf lethal tempo. Oh, spoilers, my bad. But, I guess that's my thoughts on Camille.
Symphonic, I'm assuming you're of the same ideas there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're making her any more difficult to play. I mean, the
Yeah.
W is probably going to be the only two of the things that might be notable. I mean, it's a 3.3 bonus per 100 to 2.5, so you're losing about 0.7. I'm sorry, 0.8 percentage per 100 AD. It's significant. Like, I mean, if in the long run, I guess, but it doesn't really stop what it already does, which is it's a whittle down tool for an easier
Yeah.
all in. And I mean, it's a chase down tool, but that's not being affected either. I mean, if anything, I think Riot's just scared of nerfing her true damage, and if they do that, then it makes her a much weaker of a duelist or a tank shredder. And if they nerf E too much into giving it a higher cooldown earlier on, then it's again, it much like Stubby said, it would force her to maybe not take Ignite just because of the longer cooldown. But I don't think this is putting Camille in any worse of a spot. It's just maybe to quiet down a couple of the people who are complaining about her.
Yeah. It definitely seems like that. So Camille still going to be up there in the top lane doing her thing, but moving now on to some of the system buffs or changes. We have Archangel's staff. Looks like getting a small buff where it's going to cost 400 gold less overall. I don't think it's not really that big of a change. I don't think we have to go too in depth with that one.
Wait, really? You don't think it's 400 gold is like a big? Okay, wait. They changed Archangels during preseason to make it worse, right? That's what I remember. Some change made it worse.
Yeah, it depends for. I believe they have it better now for certain champions like Cassiopeia or Ryze that are like firing out a lot of abilities. I think they gave it like some extra healing on the back end.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong, 400 gold helps, but I don't think it's going to be like, oh, I didn't build Archangels before, but now I'm going to build Archangels because it's 400 gold cheaper. You know what I mean?
So, like, not even, like, Syndra's gonna... Like, I remember Syndra sometimes built it.
Yeah.
I know some Syndras, like it. Like, it's, like, preference. So, like, this isn't gonna make, like, a Syndra buy it. Or, like, if you're super behind and you just want to scale, like, I don't know, as a mid laner, Mr. JVL, you wouldn't... You're not really interested in this item, I guess?
I think on Syndra, this probably would make me buy it more. So maybe I just was wrong in my initial analysis of it. But on Syndra specifically, the mana cost, they did help a bit, like when they changed her Q back to the old mana cost a few patches ago. But she definitely is one of the champions that have more, one of the mages, I should say, that have more mana costs in lane that you can burn through fast. So maybe this does change some people's mind. You know, if you're on the edge, maybe you will go Archangels now. But I don't think it's going to be super like prominent in the upcoming patch that's going to be like, oh, you see the new Archangels? Like, people are just building it now every game. But yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm inclined to agree. I think gold wise, I think it's really nice because it allows you to kind of get to your next item faster.
Yeah.
I mean, 400 gold is almost an amp tome, so I mean, it's kind of something. But I think the biggest issue is just the difference in changes, right? Like, we're going from gaining ability power to gaining ability haste at, like, instead of 3% at 0.5% mana, and then you're also not even getting the health portion from the Archangel staff. It's that tankiness that you were getting for a control mage in the mid lane. So I don't think this is going to make Archangels more viable, but I think the people who are the champions who are already building it, I guess, get a little bit of a, like you said, a little bit of an incentive. It's like, hey, it's a little cheaper. You get to move on from it a little quicker. But I don't think it's going to change much about what champions do or don't. It's not going to be a must-buy item.
Yeah, and it makes me think back to when Archangels was glorious and Archangels had an active shield that consumed part of your mana.
So good.
And then you could go shield and you could get a Zhonya's, and then you were just all of a sudden on Cassiopeia you had an extra health bar to work with. But anyways, back to present time where Archangels is a very sad item now for mages. Moving on though, we got Hextech and Chemtech dragons. The mini buffs, not the soul, are getting changed a little bit. So for Chemtech, the damage is going up by 1%. Something just small changes. Hextech, the damage or the attack speed is going up by 1%, and the bonus haste is going from 5 to 6. So I mean, I think both of those changes together, and then maybe you start stacking them. If you can stack a few more, that you probably actually feel maybe a slight
maybe,
but you know, small numbers. It's hard to tell really until you play. And then for Conqueror is actually getting a buff. So we saw once Lethal Tempo came out, Conqueror kind of just fell off the face of the earth, unless you're very specific champions that still take Conqueror. But the duration now is going from 4 seconds to 5 seconds, and you are getting an extra 0.5 adaptive damage per stack. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Go for it, Zim.
No. I mean, honestly, I think it's not the craziest change in the world. I mean, eventually, you know, as you're getting it per stack per level, I mean, it adds up. It ramps up a little bit faster, I guess, in the point wise, like not the actual like full stack, but like the 2 point whatever stacks. I don't think it makes Conqueror stronger than or any more influential than it already is. I mean, you're starting to see champions in the top lane. It doesn't make other champions stronger, I guess. Let me say it's more of experimentation time right now in the top lane, and you're seeing champions even take first strike that aren't, you know, wouldn't take first strike. You're still seeing a lot of lethal tempo. You still see fleet footwork. Grasp is still decent. Like it doesn't, to me, make it be. It doesn't make Conqueror again what it once was when it first came out, where you saw every champion take it. Like, and even some of the champions that did take it have gotten nerfed and haven't gotten buff. You know, things like Renekton, who did take Conqueror for a little while. Those like Juggernaut or Bruiser-esque champions that could benefit from it still don't. And this change doesn't really change that, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. Small buffs that Riot are doing in the preseason, maybe trying to just even out some of the hecticness, if you will, that's been going on with the new runes and items. But moving on to some of the system nerfs, we got Predator, one of the big keystones that has been very prevalent even before preseason. We got the maximum movement speed going down from 60% to 45%. And on top of that, the ramp up time is actually getting half a second added on to it. And I have to say, 60% movement speed to 45% max movement speed actually feels like a solid chunk off.
I agree, dude. I swear I saw people running Predator Jhin, and I'm like, that's why am my eyes seeing this right now? And I'm like, okay, that's not okay, because like I guess Jhin no dashes, you know, the movement speed helps him do his thing. I think Jhin is also one of the strongest AD carries right now, and you know, running a rune that you wouldn't really ever expect Jhin to run, because I mean, Lethal Tempo got buffed, but why does Jhin need that? So I guess just go Predator anyways. So I mean, I've also been playing a little bit of jungle, and that I think the Predator range also needs to be nerfed. But hey, who am I to say that? But I think good nerf. Good, that's a good nerf. I'll give Riot a thumbs up for that one.
Yeah, all right, let's move on to the Chemtech Dragon Soul, actually getting nerfed this patch, another prominent soul that we talked about. Bleed out time now on the respawn is going from 5 seconds to 4 seconds, and you're getting an extra 7% increase in output damage reduction once you do enter that bleed out time. So overall, I do think this is probably going to bring it back down to earth a little bit. Zymphonic, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, cutting down the amount of time that you come back for, I think that's a big thing. I mean, 5 seconds, that's insane when you think about, let's say, late game. Because, like, if you get a soul early, like, you know, earliest you can get it, I mean, if it's every, 6 minutes, right? So, like, at 20, what am I thinking?
It's like...
I can't do math.
Like 23 or something, or
yeah,
somewhere around there you can get souls.
Like, most carries are going to be around 2 items, maybe 2.5 items around that time. So, like, it's still pretty big. But when you think about those long games where you got Chemtech soul and you just respawn for 5 seconds, and even with that output reduction, carries, I mean, just get that second life, right? And you're actually outputting damage almost immediately. So having less of that time, I think, is important. Same with like just tanks coming back and like just being another frontline for another 5 seconds. Is it going to fix everything? Is it going to make it less broken? Less broken, yes. Still broken, because I mean, when in the world did Riot think that giving every champion, the 5 champions, the Scion passive was a good idea? But I mean, it's something. The damage output reduction is also pretty nice. I mean, an extra 7%. I mean, that means you're doing effectively 60% of your damage. Later on, it's not really going to matter too much, because I mean, what, an 80 carry with 5 items is going to be doing the damage of an 80 carry with 3 items,
Yeah.
like it, or 2 items. I mean, it's not gonna be 3 items. Yeah, it's not crazy, but at least it's something. They're turning it back. This is kind of the experimentation time for Riot. I'm sure if it still ends up being an issue, I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see that damage output reduction go up.
Yeah, and I actually do like the fact that you pointed out the bleed out time is a big thing here, because when you think about how long a team fight lasts late game, usually it it depends on the comps and everything, of course, but no longer than maybe 10 seconds, and that's pushing it, like 1,000, 2, 1,000 if you think
Yeah.
about it. So having 5 seconds of bleed out time, now going down to 4, but still 4 seconds is a very, very long time to be able to respawn and come back into a late game team fight. But moving on now to Crown of the Shattered Queen, ability power, getting knocked down by 10. What are your thoughts?
I just want to say I played a scrim last week, and they first picked Victor twice. Went the what's that new ruin? First strike,
First strike.
and then built that stupid ass item, and then I could do no damage to the dude because this is the one that reduces the damage, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Nah, I don't like
Nah.
that.
Dude, 10 AP, man. Woo.
Yeah,
10
10
AP,
AP.
It's like not buff. It's like not nerfing Camille Q true damage, but you're nerfing like a Camille E hookshot CD. Like, okay,
Yeah.
right? Nerf the goddamn damage reduction. But I
Okay.
guess 10 AP helps. Whatever.
Playing off of that as well, though, is Cosmic Drive getting actually a pretty sizable nerf this upcoming patch. 10 AP, but also 50 HP, and the move speed is going from 20 to 10% to 15 to 5%. So effectively, early on, being cut in half, the extra move speed that you're gaining from it. So I mean, I think that's a pretty sizable nerf for Cosmic Drive. A lot of champions I even touched on last time, like Akali, like rushing Cosmic Drive now. It's gonna turn champions away from doing that, and on champions like Victor specifically who go Crown and Cosmic, maybe the combination of both of these items getting nerfed in the same patch will kind of even him out a bit. But I'm curious what you guys think on that.
Go for it, Zim. It's all yours.
Yeah.
Item.
I mean, as soon as Cosmic Drive got changed, I'm like, what's the point of taking Phase Rush anymore? I mean, it's literally just mini Phase Rush. Like, it just allowed, like, there's a reason why you could take Victor top with, like you just mentioned, JVL, Crown, Cosmic Drive, and not have to be worried about constantly being put pressure or being able to trade effectively and just being able to run away. You're getting Phase Rush, like a mini Phase Rush, and then you're still able to take for Strike. So I think Riot might have overtuned this item a little bit too much, adding way too many things. And I get it; it wasn't built very often last season. But getting it a bit of a nerf here is kind of nice. I think this is a suitable nerf, kind of like what you mentioned: 10 AP off, 50 health off, and that movement speed buff kind of going down. So it decays very quickly as well. So I mean, that's kind of nice. Going down to 5%, it's kind of negligible at some point. So it doesn't make it like this huge as an impactful movement speed as you would get without the nerf. So will I think that Victor top is going to be still a thing? Absolutely. I mean, I don't think this is going to mess with Victor too much. I also don't think it's going to mess with things like Kassadin very much either. I think that Cosmic Drive is, if Cosmic Drive got nerfed to the ground, you'd still see Crown of the Shattered Queen built, and you maybe would just see Phase Rush. But yeah, I mean, it's something, I guess. Again, it's preseason. They're working on it, I guess.
They're working on it. Yeah, that's the motto for Riot right now. That we're working on it. That's what they're doing in the preseason. But the last item that I want to touch on is Axiom Arc, actually getting the ultimate refund reduced from 25% down to 20%. And I think this is actually a pretty big nerf. It doesn't sound like it, but when you take into account, let's say getting your full ultimate refunded, now with 20%, you'd have to get 5 takedowns, which is the entire enemy team. So you're not going to have most likely, I mean, not taking into account previous build like CDR or ability haste now, but you're not going to be able to abuse it as easily is what I'm trying to say, basically, with Nocturne or Kiana or whatever champions.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it does add up.
Yeah.
Like, right. It adds up to a pretty decent nerf.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm a fan of this one. I think. Wait, hold on. I just want to touch up on Frostfire Gauntlet because I think we
Go
just
ahead.
missed that one. That item was really, I think, a little bit too overtuned. So basically, before the preseason changes, if you're a top laner, you build Frostfire Gauntlet. If the enemy team has no dashes, so you slow them, you want to stick on them. I liked it on Shen. If I see the enemy team has no mobility, I go it on Shen. But now in goddamn preseason, you just build it every time because it just does a lot of damage as well as a slow. So um, they nerfed the damage by 8 early game, and then also the max health. Um, I think it's a good nerf, so good job, Ryan, on that one. And I even play top, and I think it's a good nerf. So, and I play tanks, so I mean that's a good one. But I guess we'll go over to adjustments now. My favorite one. God damn it, Riot, you needed this one earlier, but okay. If you want to talk about lethal tempo, Mr. JVL.
Yeah, so lethal tempo getting hit, melee attack speed per stack going down by 2%, ranged attack speed actually going up by 2%, and then the ranged bonus attack range is going down from 100 to 75. So overall, it is going to be a nerf for, I mean, melee and range. Range, you're getting a little bit more attack speed per stack, but you're losing that extra 25 bonus attack range. So I think definitely a nerf in that regard. That bonus attack range is kind of what champions like Vayne, who have generally less attack range, now all of a sudden you get the attack range of, I don't know, a Jinx with minigun or something, and you can play team fights a lot easier. So overall, pretty good nerfs. A little bit of extra attack speed on range, but yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see if this will be enough for lethal tempo to not be the most prominent, if not one of the most prominent keystones taken right now. But that is going to wrap up the patch notes here, potentially for 11/24, and we'll see you guys with the power rankings. Welcome everyone to the LPL power rankings and players of the week here in week 2. Symphonic, why don't you show us what we got for week 2 here?
Absolutely. Definitely some big changes coming out to the LPL in week number 2. As we see some continued upsets and some continued success for some teams. Starting at the top, we got CB Rush in the first place. I mean, not much can be said about the dominance that CB Rush has. I mean, I think they had one 20-minute game and one 21-minute game against CWRU. Again, dominance is the word that I will use to describe their playstyle. And while it wasn't necessarily a potentially difficult match for CB Rush, at least just based on power rankings alone, they definitely made it look way too easy. So we're gonna have to wait and see what team can potentially dethrone CB Rush, or if they're just gonna kind of continue to steamroll through the LPL. Number 2, we got Cape Dogs Unchained. They had another really strong win again this week. They did have a substitute support player this week, but that didn't stop them from taking a 2-0 victory. And they just continue to climb. The bigger changes here is between, our third place and our 4th place team. Cape Dogs Valor actually making the jump from 5th to 3rd here over Callous Wraith. These two teams actually ended up playing against each other this last week on our stream matchup on Thursday. Cape Dogs Valor took a very close series 2-1 against Callous Wraith. On the back of some really strong plays and some really strong players. So, I mean, this is a big change for them. I mean, Callous Wraith definitely looked really strong in week number 1. They did not look necessarily weaker in week 2, but Cape Dogs Valor definitely came in with their A game. So they're going to be bumping themselves up to 3rd. Callous Wraith coming in at number 4. Again, a really strong team nonetheless. Took a difficult loss for them here in week 2, but I'm sure they're looking to jump back in week number 5. Some bigger changes again in these power rankings. We got Lotus White coming in at 5th, and we got Lotus Black coming in at 6th. The Lotus teams coming in clutch here after some really good wins. Both teams are sitting at 2-0 right now, and they got some difficult matches coming in week number 3. Not to mention Lotus White. I mean, they took at least based off of the initial season power rankings, took a win over Omega Gaming Runeterra. They took that 2-0 or 2-1. Yeah, 2-1. No, 202. I'm sorry. So they had a really good week, and I mean that's a reason why they're kind of bumping up in the power rankings. Also a reason as to why we're not seeing Omega Runeterra on the power rankings either this week. Lotus Black again, clean 2-0s as well. They're looking really good. TA Super Cuties after a rough week one, they are back in this, sitting at number 7 here after taking a win in week number 2. And then lastly, but certainly not least, we got Absolute Esports making their climb up to the 8th spot in our power rankings. Again, also sitting at 2-0. They are going to have a fun matchup this upcoming week, maybe one to watch, as we'll find out later, to secure potentially a full hold on first place for Division A. On to player rankings, our players of the week, I'm sorry. So speaking of Cape Dog's Valor and having a great week, we are going to be our top player, or player of the week for the top lane position is Demon Prince here. So he is the top laner for Cape Dog Valor. For me, at least, Demon is hands down the kind of top laner you want on your team. He can be left on an island, take all the pressure, soak it all up, and still output some crazy damage. He had his week 2 performance again against Catalyst Wraith this week. He was a constant threat to them, and he led the charge as Kled in game number 1, being set back a bit, but just did not stop pushing and ended up getting a really strong game number 1. And he was just this crazy split push threat in game number 2 on the Tahm Kench. So he is a very solid top laner, definitely someone to potentially be afraid as you're facing Cape Dog's Valor, because no matter what, he's going to be putting something out. In the jungle, we got AKM Zealot for CB Rush. He has some strong objective control and high kill participation. Zealot here helps lead CB Rush as the team with the least given neutral objectives in week 1 and 2. CB Rush has only given one dragon and 1 herald over 4 games.
Oh my goodness.
That is all they've given, and it is on the back of AKM Zealot with his superior objective control. He provides a lot of the team in terms of in-game control, and honestly, I think he's one of the biggest reasons why these games are ending so quickly and so swiftly and so decisively. Some notable stats, at least based on our LPL stats, he has the least game deaths per game. He's sitting at averaging 1 death per game over 4 games. And he's a number 1 jungler in the LPL and overall the number 2 player based on our MVP rating system. So definitely someone to keep an eye on. In the mid lane, we got Elmo B'tman from Lotus Black. He, whether it's an 0-3 start or a 3-0 start, he outputs so much damage in the mid lane, and he is definitely the driving force behind Lotus Black. He had a great series against Genesis in week number 2. He soaked up a lot of pressure in that mid lane in game number 1, but even with that slower start, he found kill after kill in the mid to late game and just steamrolled for the rest of the game. And then game 2, he just went nuts. He got a 3-0 early, died once, and he never looked back. He ended up finishing at 17-1-12 on LeBlanc in game number 2. Oh my goodness. So he, even with or without resources, he's strong, and he's pushing forward for this. Something to keep note of, or some LPL notable stats again, he's the 3rd highest kills per game. He averages 10 kills over 5 games. He's also the 4th highest damage per minute at 843.5 over 5 games. He is also the number 1 mid in the LPL and the 4th overall best player in the LPL right now. Coming in AD, we got Necrox. He is the ADC for Lotus White. Very stiff competition. Necrox just barely beating out the next player. He is a strong in-game presence. He has a very active voice in this game, as I got to hear and listen to. He has some really strong positioning, and honestly, he shows the duality of a strong AD carry player. Whether it's on Jinx and he's being given all the resources, he'll put the team on his back, or even as Ezreal, he will play that weak side bot lane as Ezreal Yumi, and he outputs crazy damage as well. He is currently has the highest CS over 4 games at 8.3 CS per minute over 4 games. He has the highest damage as well per minute at 871.4, and he is the number 1 player and the number 1 ADC in all of LPL based on our MVP ratings. So really crazy here. And finally, rounding out the bot lane of player of the week is the bot lane for Lotus White, Firestreaks, the support. So my thoughts are behind every great ADC, there's an even greater support. So Firestreaks is definitely that player right now for week number 2. He does a great job grounding his team with some really strong vision control, high kill participation, and the skills to keep his carries alive. Notable LPL stats, he has the highest vision score in the league per minute at 2.84 over 4 games, and he is the number 1 support and the number 6 player in the LPL MVP ratings. So those are the players of the week, along with the power rankings. Some honorable mentions for players of the week. In the mid lane, we got St. Alucard, the mid laner for Lotus White. He did not want to be outshined by his ADC in the bot lane. However, he outputted some crazy numbers as well. Just not enough as Elmo B'tman, but he is still a very strong player in his own regard. And my second honorable mention is Dare Nuffies. He just barely misses it. He's the ADC for CB Rush. He continues to show LPL why he's one of the best AD carries in the league. He continues to put CB Rush on his back week after week on his 2 Jinx back-to-back carries this week. But we're just gonna have to see if he can continue to kind of steamroll the competition. And speaking of Dare Nuffies and just barely missing out, one of my matches for the week, if not the match of the week that I really want to point out, is CV Rush versus Lotus White. The battle of first place for Division B and the battle of the top 2 AD carries for LPL. So it's going to be a big one. I mean, I think this is going to be one of the best matches we're going to get to see. Winner of this is going to be in sole possession of first place in week 3 for Division B. I'm sorry. So I think if you're able to catch this match anywhere, if anybody streams it, it's going to be one hell of a match. And my last match of the week to watch out for is going to be Cape Cod's Valor versus Absolute Esports, number 3 versus number 8 in the LPL power rankings. Another battle for first in the Division A rankings. Cape Dog is coming off of a really strong win against Catalyst Wraith, much like I mentioned, but now they're up against Absolute Esports, who's hungry to secure their spot here in the LPL. So we're going to have to see if Cape Valors can cement themselves as top dog of Division A, or are they going to be put in the doghouse, by Absolute Esports here? But it's only one way to find out, and you're going to find out this week on the LPL. So that's it for me.
I'm so excited for some of these matches. CB Rush and Lotus White. Oh my, I gotta mark my calendar for that one. But, we're gonna send it over now to the LGL and our analyst Stubby. Stubby, week 2, what do we got?
All right, well, I'm gonna go straight into the power rankings, and looks a little bit familiar as last week, but I think we might see this team here for a while. If I'm predicting it right, hopefully. TA Spirit with a super clean 2-0. They did look a bit rough at times. I think I catched a stream of their game, and I think the team has kind of found their identity where Caxi just plays tank junglers or these heavy CC junglers, gets his lanes ahead early. Their solo laners, I think Bap and Stone. Stone had a really good series. Play well. Jason Crypt, I think one of the highest CS numbers for 80 carries in LGL. Sits down there, farms, and becomes a monster late game. Is a recipe for success. Number 2, I mean, geez, my power rankings are looking like Mr. B'tman's. Clown Gaming at number 2. Clean 2-0. If TA Spirit drops like a series, I think Clown Gaming just takes number 1 from them. But yeah, looking forward to seeing if Clown, I think so far, has had the cleanest games out of any LGL teams. Number 3, we have Imperial Gaming. They did go 2-1 in their series. There was a lot of back and forth, a little bit of throwing from both sides, but I think this team is still really good. Like I said last week, I do have experience playing against them personally in scrims in another league, and I think they're really good. The core, they can hold their own. Number 4, though, Genesis Academy. They did win 2-1 against Fiendish Codex. Some close games. I did watch this series as well, and Fiendish Codex, even though it started 0-2, Genesis did take the W there. And then number 5, Aegis Gaming. They did win 2-1 against a team, a kind of weaker team in their division and a much lower elo. So that's why I guess they're kind of they're top 5. They're not middle of the pack, but they're still up there. Number 6, CB Dusk. I did mention some other players that I wanted to watch out for Chitin last week. They made, I think, 3 roster changes, and they had some pretty clean games against New Wave Paradox, who I thought would do much better and at least go to 3 games. But hey, 2-0 for CB Dusk. Number 7 and number 8 are going to be exactly like Mr. B'tman's power rankings. He did say Conduit with that mid laner would be 7th. Conduit and Goon Squad Gaming faced against each other. That's why Conduit 7 and Goon Squad Gaming is 8th. This series was, I think, the show match of the week. I think Zim was the one that casted it.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of casting it with Zim.
Was it you two as well? Okay, I
Yeah.
remember you filled in. Okay.
Yep.
I think all 3 games were just
They were bangers.
okay. Here's our early lead. The other team throws. Take it to late game. We coin flip at 5 items, and then we go to game 3, and then the same thing happens. But I think this is a potential, like, even though these teams are 7th and 8th, I think these teams, like, watching those series and how long they can, if they can play from behind, or I mean, they did have struggles closing, so that's that. But I think this could be a banger of a 5-game series if we watch it in like a best of 5. I kind of want to watch them play against each other again because, I mean, they went to late game and it was kind of crazy. And Genetics went kind of crazy on that Vayne late game. But Some series to look out for this week. I want to kind of bring some hype to the O2 teams. We got Team Rattled versus Average on a good day, and Ghost Riders Legacy versus Fiendish Codex. Dude, I'm telling you, whatever team starts 0-2 and they just bring it back and they're just on fire the rest of the weeks until playoffs. Like B'tman was saying, remember his story in BOL?
Yeah.
There's no one respected them. They just came out of nowhere. I think one of these 4 teams has the ability to pop off and just ride the wave all the way to playoffs. And I mean, starting entering week 4 1-2 would be a good start. Hopefully not 0-3. But yeah, good luck to them. And I guess we'll go straight into the players of the week. Clown Gaming's up there again. But we'll start with Pink Haze. 9-2-18 on GP, 14-3 and 14-3 and 13 on Camille. Your goddamn Camille just got nerfed, buddy. Had a 4K lead game 1 and a 3K gold lead game 2. In comparison to his opposing laner. B'tman and Pink Haze played really well together, and that's why B'tman gets the Jungler of the Week or Player of the Week for jungle. 11-1, 16 on J4, 5-5, 18 on Hecarim. I mean, the kill participation is really good. He facilitates the jungle. 27 KDA with 81 KP.
Yeah.
That's just, I think, B'tman's just everywhere. He's in our
Yeah.
interview. He's everywhere in the games. This guy just we can't escape B'tman. And then next up, in the mid lane, my player to watch out last week was actually Chitin on CB Dusk. 11-2, 13 on Graves, 6-0 and 15 in the second game. Got 4-banned. Went actually lethal tempo on Graves by accident, which is just what you're gonna do with lethal tempo on Graves. But had only 2 deaths in 60 minutes game time total. So I think we'll be seeing Chitin a lot more in the player of the week for mid. I hope he can let some other mid laners have some love, but we'll see. And then rounding it off in the bot lane, I think with the best team logo in the league, like look at that logo. We got Cape Dogs, 80 carry Morpheus, 18-4 and 7 on Jinx, 9-0 and 11 on Twitch, 4K gold differential in both games to his opposing 80 carry, and Talon, look at this Lulu abuser. 0-2, 25 Lulu, 2-0, 22 Lulu, 86% kill participation game 1, and he only died 2 times in 60 minutes game time. So, dude, in game 2 he had more gold than half of the enemy team.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Lulu broken.
Yeah.
Lulu nerf went. Hello.
Lulu nerf went, but I think, dude, even last week where we saw the potential of a Cape Dogs 80 carry popping off, now they're getting the love here in the player of the week. So big shout out to the Cape Dogs bot lane for helping their team with the dubs. Now I got my players to watch out for maybe future player of the weeks, or players that almost made it to my player of the week. And we're gonna give some love to 80 carries. Some 80 carries were getting next level water this week or something. But we got Induced on Clown Gaming, 6-2, 16 Jin, 17-3 and 14 Samira. Samira Bus looking good for this guy, but 17 kills on Samira, like the Samira was popping off. If someone has that many kills on Samira, they're 1v5ing.
Yeah.
100% they're 1v5ing. So big shout out to Induce and Rin from Imperial Gaming, a team that I think is very good, as I've mentioned before. 9-2-10 Ezreal, 7-1-2 Jin. Stat lines show it. I think both of these 80 carries deserve it. Morpheus just had a better stat line and just seemed as though Morpheus impacted the game more, especially with the gold differentials. Yeah, those are my, I guess, power rankings for the week, player of the week for Lotus Gardenia League, and hoping for some bangers week 3, maybe some upsets, and maybe if we can start seeing Dark Horse build up, and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
All right, thank you very much, Stubby and Symphonic, and we are going to be going right into the weekly highlights.
In this gothic underground city, we all sin. If I bring a couple rounds with me, then we all win. I came back and brought the crown with me. The king's dead. Break your nexus and your neck, cause everybody's on your head. Just like kick your butt, go run amok, then paint my nails. Never learned to raise my hand. Was too busy raising hell. Everything I know I am. You should go and save yourself.
But this time he's going to be able to dodge out of the way. Intel though has a good line set on up here. He's got a whole bunch of damage on him, but that's a huge amount of CC coming over the wall, and just like that, the entirety of National 3 is melted there. Final champions coming up, rolling on one of those squad.
Hold still, boy, like back then. Talk back till I snap back. This ain't brown, this that dark black. This that pitch black, jet black. Snap your ex, watch me give them flashbacks. Pressure's rising fast as lightning, they can't stop it now. If you ain't talking realness, then just change the topic now. They laughing at the top like they can't see the bottom. And they thought I needed help, but I got help
Mark,
without
he gets
them.
bursted out 1 versus 2 there. Meanwhile, he going down into the mid lane. Then Chaos Force run down, but not quite going to be able to finish off Frosty. The flash has to defend it. Now here comes that charge from the side of Demon Prince, trying to pull back into Demon Star with the team. Makes the trap out of rope, and is going to be able to take out Shady Gecko, but out saturation far up, going to have to flash away. Now in that fight, 4 versus 2, they're going to trade one back, take out the tunnel. Shutdown comes on through on Demon Prince, now diving under Catapult. Triple kill gets picked up for the Clan, and just like that.
Now that was a nice little handful of clips we got there from week 2 of the Lotus Leagues. And Stubby, which one of those clips caught your fancy more than the others?
I just want to say week 2 was a banger compared to week 1. Caxi, you were the only banger week 1. Thank you very much. But week 2, dude, Demon Prince, I told you guys Kled is OP. If you open Demon Prince's OP.gg and you're telling me you're not banning Kled, you are on something. Dude, he's literally a Kled 1-trick. I don't care what you say. You don't give 1-tricks. They're 1-trick. He's
Yeah.
0-2. It doesn't matter. This is 1-trick. This is bread and butter, dude. But yeah, Kled with the triple, with the rebound. As long as you understand those, you know, how to get Kled rebound as fast as possible, you could be a good Kled player just like Mr. Demon Prince. So shout out to that clip. I like that clip. Good resets, good kills. Kled OP.
Symphonic, what about you?
Man, I just can't get that team fight in the jungle out of my head where everyone just lines up perfectly. Yumi detaching, getting that 5-man final chapter. And it's just, oh, it was just so gross just to see everything. The Aurelia ulti, just everything coming together for that huge wombo. And then just to be able to just run it down right after that. Like, that's the stuff you want to see. Those are the highlight videos you want to see, because that's just everything coming together at the right time in the right place. You can't make that up. Like, you can't just plan for that. That's just in the moment right there.
Yeah, you spend 30 minutes playing a league game and doing all these minor little things. Oh, I'm resetting, I'm pushing this lane, and all of a sudden, oh, you just get womboed at 30 minutes and everyone dies, and then you lose the game. But I mean, that's the love and hate relationship that we all have with League. But I have to say that the clip with, I believe it was Confounder on Aphelios, at the beginning of the clip, I didn't know what we were looking out for, and then Aphelios just keeps running and keeps surviving and keeps living, and then ends up killing everyone, and I was like, okay, well, I guess 200 years is still in full effect.
When Aphelios has those Beyblades around him, you stay the hell away from that champ. I don't even know what the hell's happening.
You don't chase that.
He has like 5 guns. How does that champion even work? But
we still don't know.
I just know when I see those little blades around him, I don't even try to get near that dude.
Yeah, and hey, if you guys want your clips featured on Lotus Rewind, make sure you submit them in the Lotus Nexus League Discord. And that is gonna about wrap it up here for us today on Lotus Rewind episode 2, week 2. Looking forward to some crazy matches this week for week 3. Again, that CB and Lotus White game gonna be really, really big and probably pretty entertaining to watch as well. So we will see you guys next week for week 3.
In this Gothic underground city, we all sin. If I bring a couple rounds with me, then we all squad. Nothing but champions coming up, rolling up one of those squad. Hold still, boy, like back then. Talk back till I snap back. This ain't brown, this that dark black. This that pitch black, jet black. Snap your ex, watch me give them flashbacks.
Pressure's rising fast as lightning, they can't stop it now. If you ain't talking realness, then just change the topic now. They laughing at the top like they can't see the bottom.